I just want to sincerely thank the IAM union for the incredible support that they show NEFI and federal employees every day. We can't thank you enough. I think the rally at Union Station yesterday said it all. The IAM is forcefully there for federal employees when we need them the most. Thank you. Thank you. And I thought it was a lot of fun. Did you guys have fun? Yeah. A bit of an unstructured format. Yeah. But yeah, good things happened. We were live on the news. We saw practically the whole executive committee on the bullhorn. We had a kamikaze YouTuber. What was that guy thinking? Did not work out well. He bit down on the mouthpiece, but it didn't pay off for him. Okay. But also want to thank Hassan and his whole team. Ty and Lauren do great work for us. I want to thank my legislative team. Matt, are you here? Matt Dorsey? They might sometimes are up on Capitol Hill, but Matt Dorsey, our legislative director, Steve, our chief lobbyist and executive director, do a tremendous job for everybody. And thank you for everybody here who's here this week. So I want to talk about federal employees and what we're going through. NEFI represents about 110,000 federal workers nationwide, and they're just doing incredible, federal employees across the board are doing incredible work for the American people. They're keeping our military ready. Department of Defense is the biggest agency out there. We're caring for veterans, Department of Veterans Affairs. Yes, absolutely. Maintaining our homeland security. Okay, when they're thinking about all these crazy layoffs, and people heard about this fork in the road email that this Doge, this so-called Department of Government Efficiency, emailed over 90% of the federal workers out there in critical agencies, keeping the American people safe, and said, please resign. You're not wanted here. If you stick around, we're probably gonna lay you off anyway. You're not efficient. Some of the people that they illegally riffed, they laid them off illegally and then told them they're laid off for poor performance. Every single person laid off for poor performance so they couldn't collect unemployment. Are you kidding me? How disrespectful, okay? So this is the kind of thing that we're dealing with. But federal workers are just doing that critical work, clean air, clean water, safe air travel, you name it. So many things, essential services for the American people. And in many ways, they're the backbone of this country. We need to support them, and you guys are, and I can't thank you enough. Yeah. So as you know, the Trump administration is destroying public services in this country. They claim to be making government more efficient, okay? That is a complete joke. Do not think for a minute that there's any truth to that. I've seen Elon Musk at press conferences, and he's like, oh, we just gotta make all these cuts because we're going bankrupt. No. That as they're trying to make all these unnecessary cuts of essential services, they're also trying to push through a $4.5 trillion tax cut that almost exclusively benefits only the filthy rich in this country. And by the way, yeah, that is awful. But the annual cost of that, is $400 billion, which is bigger than the entire federal payroll put together. Yeah. Okay? So if they say we're having to do this, no. They're trying to pay for a billionaire tax cut, and they're doing it on the backs of hardworking middle-class workers in this country. Yep. So also, don't think that they're saving a nickel. I mean, there was a study that just came out in the last week that showed that Doge is not saving money. It is costing the American taxpayers $135 billion this year. So they're just full of crap. That's not where it ends. They're running off all of the best and brightest in the federal government. There's not a single person that works for the government that's doing hard work for the American people and not going, do I really want to continue to put up with this nonsense? Okay? It is a toxic work environment, and that is the worst thing that you can do for efficiency. So if anybody's saying, oh, this has to happen, or oh, they're making us more efficient, it's garbage, call them out on that. Here's another thing. They have illegally inserted politics into an apolitical civil service. I can't tell you how meaningful this is. For over 100 years, we have benefited from having a competitive civil service, protected from politics, protected from all the political winds that blow this way and that. And these guys have just gotten rid of it. They're firing people left and right, and one of the worst things is they are making decisions on who to fire and who not to fire based on their perceived politics. Are you kidding me? Going through federal agencies and say, does this person pass our political litmus test? You know, when these aren't political people. They're just middle-class workers doing their jobs, okay? So it's really scary. What they're doing is illegal. It is irresponsible. It is reprehensible, and it absolutely must be stopped. And what they're doing is not a recipe for efficiency. It is a recipe for disaster. So they've now fired or bullied into resignation 275,000 federal workers. Okay, 275. And they plan to triple or quadruple that in the coming months. So, you know, some people are out there saying, oh, well, we've lost federal employees and we're not even seeing anything yet. That's nonsense. Okay, a lot of these people haven't left the payrolls yet because they took a deferred resignation, a so-called deferred resignation, and they're still working. They're gonna be working until that resignation date that they accepted. So we're not seeing the full effects of it yet, but we are going to see the effects of it, and there's gonna be some disaster that we're dealing with, I'm telling you. Let's not forget that all of these folks that are being screwed with in the federal government are hardworking middle-class people. Nobody is making a killing working for the federal government. On average, they make 25% less than people doing the same jobs in the private sector. And a lot of these people are union members. 30% of them are veterans, and Trump administration is treating them like dirt. So never forget about how many veterans are in the federal government. Okay, so like I said, 30% of the federal workforce are veterans. So we've seen nearly 100,000 veterans removed from their jobs, no longer to be able to support their families because of what Trump is doing with these layoffs. About 100,000 vets already, okay? Concurrently, he's decimating the Department of Veterans Affairs, okay, where we have lots of folks in this room, okay, that care for veterans every day, okay, and absolutely love that work. And we don't have enough people. I mean, there was still tens of thousands of vacancies before they've started the cuts, okay? So not only are they laying off hundreds of thousands of veterans, okay, are at 100,000 already and climbing. Their goal is to lay off 500,000 veterans, okay? And at the same time, they're laying off 83,000 people who care for veterans every day. This is a 1-2 punch to the face of every veteran in this country, okay? We cannot have it. We absolutely have to stop it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, people say to me, well, a lot of veterans voted for Trump. They did. Yes, they did. They should not have, but a lot of veterans did. And it doesn't matter if they did or not. This is not what they signed up for, okay? And with all that we're seeing, all these attacks on veterans that they did not expect, I'm sure. You know, you can stand for Trump and Doge and Elon Musk, or you can stand for veterans, but you cannot stand for both.
Yeah.
So two things when you're up there talking to members of Congress this week. just a couple easy messages. One, stop the DOGE riffs. Stop them. They're dangerous. They're unfair. They're illegal. Tell them to stop them. Defund them. Stop them however you have to. Okay, and it's still going to have to shape up how we stop them. But these riffs have to stop. Okay. Tell members of Congress that they're screwing over veterans. That is not what their constituents want. I promise you, I don't care what office you're talking to, they do not want, their constituents do not want veterans to be screwed over. It is as bipartisan as an issue that there is, and we cannot let these members of Congress run from what this administration is doing to veterans.
Yeah.
So make no mistake, they will decimate public services and put the American people in danger. This is how they're putting people in danger. First, we got a lot of wildland firefighters. Got any wildland firefighters in here right now? They're doing great work up on the hill. They have 100 meetings, those wildland firefighters. Okay, but one, they laid off thousands of people who support the wildland firefighters. The entire Forest Service and multiple agencies work fire in this country, and they're laying them off by the thousands. So any notion that, because they tried to have a fig leaf and say, well, we're not laying off wildland firefighters. Well, if you're laying off all the people that support the entire fire mission, then it's going to have the same effect. They're also not, I think a majority of wildland firefighters are seasonal. And so if you're not bringing on, so they're not laying them off, but they're not bringing them on nearly at the rate as they need to. So both those things have the exact same effect. We don't have enough wildland firefighters. Communities are going to burn. People are going to die because of the garbage that this administration is pulling. And there are examples like this all over the federal government. Let's see here. They laid off the nuclear regulators. Did you see that in the news? Okay, and then they tried to unwind it when they realized what happened. Who knows if we even got those people back? Because once you run people off out of the federal government, a lot of times they're just gonna say, screw you. I don't really like working here anymore. They froze hiring of air traffic controllers, even though there was a shortage. Okay, and we've seen several mishaps in air travel and putting the American people in danger. They laid off the suicide hotline workers at the VA, for Christ's sake. Yeah, here's a number, 523. You know what that is? That's how many veterans commit suicide every month in this country. And they laid off the damn suicide hotline workers, for Christ's sake. These people are dangerous. They don't know what they're doing, and they need to be stopped.
Yeah.
And late last month, President signed an executive order to unilaterally and unlawfully eliminate collective bargaining for over 1 million federal workers nationwide. This is the biggest threat to collective bargaining that we have ever seen in this country. Okay, it is truly, truly unprecedented. And again, I would just say the support that the IAM, Brian, you directly, very forcefully are showing, backing us up. I would also say the AFL-CIO has done a great job of being there for us in this fight and really getting all of labor to understand how this is the tip of the spear, and we have to maintain collective bargaining in the federal sector. Before Carla goes, I would say, Carla, thank you for all your help with all the lawsuits. I was about to point you out. We're suing. Oh, this stuff is so illegal. You have no idea how illegal it is. And so we're suing, and finally the courts are starting to take a bit of a stand, and so that's a great thing. But this is an assault on our constitutional rights. The right to form and join a union is a First Amendment right that we have in this country. And this president, he just does not respect the Constitution. That is an oath that he took, okay? And he has a duty to faithfully execute the laws of this country, and he is not doing that. And that's another thing that you should tell every single congressional office. This president has to respect and follow the Constitution of this country. So, hey, they're trying to get rid of federal employee unions. That's clear. And we're stopping them. And, the other thing is, part of that same executive order, they took away direct dues deductions, okay? Which I can't tell you how despicable that is. I mean, this is our business. So NEFI lost, more than half of our federal members were kicked out of their union, essentially. If you take away somebody's paying dues, they're essentially kicked out of the union. And the union doesn't have we don't have the resources to operate, right? Okay, so they, kicked, well over half of our federal dues-paying members out of their union. And, it's just a direct assault on working people, and it's despicable. But I'll tell you what, he can pull all the crap he wants. He can sign executive orders. He can mess with us, but we aren't going anywhere. We aren't going anywhere. That's right. NEFI's been around 107 years, okay? And we're resilient. And thankfully, we're backed up by the Machinists Union, who has our back. And it's too important what's happening here. And we're not gonna go away. Our people are more fired up about being in a union than they ever have. And the work that we have to do to protect the federal workforce has never been so important. So we're not going anywhere. I talked about this tax cut. I mean, all of this being done for a $4.5 trillion tax cut. But sometimes with DOGE, you're like, we found $6 million of waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, most of that list is total nonsense, and I think people know that by now. But people don't really know the difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion. Those things all kind of run together. Okay, the billionaires are making off with a $4.5 trillion tax cut while they're saying, look over here, $5 million in waste, fraud, and abuse. It's not even real, but it's a magic game that they're playing. Do you know how long, anybody know? Raise your hand if you know. How long is 1 million seconds? Anybody? Quick math? It's 12 days, okay? Anybody know what 1 billion seconds is? It's 32 years. Bill Clinton had just been elected president of the United States. You know what 1 trillion seconds is? Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon were still mating 32,000 years ago, okay? So don't tell me about what $5 million change you found in the couch while the billionaires are running off with trillions in tax cuts. It needs to stop. Tell every single member of Congress, don't you dare allow these cuts to happen while you're giving billionaires a tax cut that we can't afford in this country. Thank you. I did want to circle back on something I talked about last year and the year before. For many years, we've been pushing for a permanent increase in pay for wildland firefighters. And, when we passed a big continuing resolution a few months ago, something that we weren't particularly supportive of. We did not really support that. It had many deficiencies. We needed that continuing resolution to take a strong stance against Trump, and that did not happen, and we were very disappointed by that. But included in that legislation was the permanent increase to wildland firefighter pay. It took many years. We finally got it done. We finally got it done. And we couldn't celebrate it. We could not in good conscience celebrate that victory when it came on an overall piece of legislation that was, we considered garbage. But I do want to thank everybody here because, it wasn't just NEFI pushing for that. A lot of people in this room have been here year after year and helped carry that water. And I just can't tell you how consequential that is for wildland firefighters that, were living in their cars and just couldn't afford to live. And now they're going to be paid fairly. And that's a great thing. So I really appreciate it. And then, and very last thing is, on this whole collective bargaining thing, we need Congress to stop this administration, what they're doing, this attack on collective bargaining. So they signed that executive order, and we've got a piece of legislation. I want you to pay attention to this one. It's called the bipartisan. It is bipartisan. There's, I think, at least six or seven Republicans on it already. So it's a very bipartisan piece of legislation called the Protecting America's Workforce Act. It's HR 2550. And we're building support for that legislation, bipartisan support. And we need Congress to say, no, you're not taking away people's First Amendment right to form and join a union. That's how we do it. Support that piece of legislation. Folks, I can't tell you how proud I am to be a fighting machinist. Thank you very much.
Hey!